Now, last week I spoke to Paul. He's a British-Israeli dual national who lives in London. He's a family man, he's got kids, but following the Hamas terror attacks on Israel on October the 7th, he decided to join up with the IDF, the Israeli Defence Force, as a volunteer. Full disclosure, I know Paul, we've been friends for years, so I was quite shocked when he told me that he'd gone out there to volunteer. He's now serving with the IDF in the West Bank, and last week, just before the unrest over the Remembrance Weekend, I spoke to him about his military base there. Due to the rise in anti-Semitic hate crime we've witnessed in recent weeks, Paul asked that I hide his identity in order to protect his family, who are still in London. So we've decided to pixelate his face. I started out by asking him why he felt that was truly necessary.
It's a real shame that Western civilization doesn't recognize that the threat in Israel involves not just Israel, but the Jews around the world and also the rest of Western civilization. So me being out here is dangerous for my family back in London.
What motivated you to decide to go out to the West Bank and basically put yourself in danger for Israel?
All Israelis do service. All Israelis have to stand up, unified, and defend the country. It's the only country we have. We have nowhere else to go. If Israel is not safe, then all of Jews around the world are not safe. And it's no good just relying on the current Israeli Defense Forces and who's the population who are here. All Jews around the world must stand up and help fight for what is right and for the defense of Israel and their own homes. I'm defending my home in London. Is why I'm here. My children need to understand that. They need to understand that as Jews, they will be targeted. Every generation we are targeted. And the UK needs to understand that if it's after us, it's the West that's next.
And what was the reaction of your family, of your children, when you said you were going out to the West Bank?
It's difficult for children that have not grown up in Israel to understand why their father would go out and put themselves in danger to fight for themselves, for the country. So they were pretty upset. It took a while for them to certainly understand it. They've read it in books. They know the history. They understand the Holocaust that we've been through and the birth of Israel. But that's all theoretical. For this time, the first time, me coming here drove the point home.
And what's it like out there? What are the conditions like where you are in the West Bank? What's morale like?
So the morale is extremely high. The country is pretty good when it comes to emergency situations. When it comes to war, the country knows what it needs to get done and everyone is unified. But there is a strange combination of still shock and awe and heartbreak of what happened from 7th of October. We need to understand that that can never, ever happen again. We said that about the Holocaust, and here we are again defending basic people's our rights as Jews to live without being slaughtered and butchered. But the morale is very high. We're based in the West Bank. The West Bank is a lot safer than it is down in Gaza, but there is a lot of work being done to keep the West Bank in control and quiet and not allow for Hamas groups within the West Bank to pretty much do the same thing and repeat what happened in Gaza. We deal with everything on a civilian basis level, and then if there are any military issues, for example, there are pockets of Hamas who sit in the West Bank just waiting to cause terror attacks, then obviously we need to deal with those, and we deal with those on a daily basis. We are overseeing an entire civilian population, which we work mostly very well with. We have about 1 million workers that come in from the territories into Israel on a regular basis peacefully. And that is the hope that we have, that we can live side by side without any terror organization or Iran trying to foment and create a terrorist front for us on our borders. So we are hopeful that one day we can work together in two different states in peace, but that peace has to come without a price, and that price is everybody, our children and Palestinian children, being safe.
When it comes to what you're seeing back in London, How has that been making you feel? We've had this row going on about this weekend, whether there should have been marches this weekend for remembrance and for the remembrance commemorations. You'll have seen stories posted by the likes of me on the Telegraph about a huge amount of anti-Semitic sentiment on the streets. We've seen that not just in London, but around the Western world. I recently wrote a story about UCL complaining about anti-Semitism on campus, even though it was the first university in England to admit Jews back in the 19th century. How are you feeling about London right now in Israel?
It's hugely frustrating because London is my home. I love the place. It protects freedoms. The UK went out to fight ISIS. It went out to contain this fundamentalist, brutal, anti-Western civilization ideology. And yet the UK allows this ideology to breed on the streets of London. This is not just a pro-Palestinian march. In fact, it's not a pro-Palestinian march at all. If any of them cared about the Palestinians, they would want Israel to destroy Hamas. If any of them cared about Palestinians, then they wouldn't be marching at all. And what the West doesn't understand is that it's breeding the exact fundamentalism that exists in ISIS and in Hamas today. And allowing these marches on the streets, you're educating the next generation that Islamic fundamental ideology is strength, and they can control what they like. They can walk on the streets freely, and they can control. This is a problem that West haven't woken up to. They need to wake up quickly. It's not just Israel's front that's fighting. We're fighting for all of the West.
How far are you willing to go? Because I know you're a businessman. I've always known you to be pretty mild-mannered and measured. You've seen the videos of the October the 7th attacks. I know you have because you've told me that. You've seen the extent of Hamas's brutality and depravity. I mean, how far are you willing to go here? Because you may be required to kill terrorists. You may be required to put your life on the line.
There isn't even a question. Had Israel been around during the Holocaust wouldn't have happened. And right now, we are surviving our own mini Holocaust with Hamas on our border and Hezbollah on our border and Iran doing everything it can to make life difficult and brutal for us. So yes, we are willing to sacrifice each and every one of our lives, just as in every war we have done that. I can't allow for Hamas to come in and take my children captive, or to sit there for my children to feel, hold on, they're not safe in their own homes. Or they have to watch the stories, the brutal stories, which I'm not even going to repeat right now. That cannot ever happen. And so if it's my life to try and save my children's lives, then I think everybody would make that choice. But that's where we are now.
And how long do you envisage being out there?
Well, I'll be out here as long as I'm needed. The Israeli IDF army are doing a phenomenal job in winning this war. But this war, again, doesn't just end with Hamas. We've got a number of enemy around just waiting to pounce on any weakness that we show. So we're going to be here and we're going to continue until the job is done.